The courtyard was not empty. It was worse than empty. It was full. 500 students sat in perfect rows on the stone ground, their backs straight, their hands folded in their laps. They had gathered for the monthly demonstration, the ritual where Ip Man would show them the deepest principles of Wing Chun. But today was different. Today, someone else had come. His name was Chen Wei, 28 years old, muscles like carved stone. He stood at the edge of the courtyard wearing loose black pants and no shirt, his chest glistening with sweat even though he had not yet moved. He had trained in northern Shaolin for 15 years. He had won tournaments across 3 provinces. And he had come to Foshan with one purpose: to prove that Wing Chun was a relic and that Ip Man was too old to defend it. Ip Man stood in the center of the courtyard, 60 years old, thin as bamboo. He wore his usual gray changshan, buttoned to the throat. His hair was silver at the temples. His hands hung relaxed at his sides. He did not look at Chen Wei. He looked at his students, at the 500 faces watching him with something between respect and worry. Sifu, one of the senior students, whispered from the front row, "You don't have to accept this. He is young. He is strong. You have nothing to prove." Ip Man's expression did not change. "I have everything to prove," he said quietly. "Not to him, to you." Chen Wei stepped forward. His footsteps were heavy, deliberate. He stopped 3 meters from Ip Man and crossed his arms over his chest. "I have heard the stories about you," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "They say you are a great master. They say Wing Chun is the superior style. But I see an old man, and I think the stories are lies." The courtyard held its breath. Ip Man turned slowly to face him. His eyes were calm, almost kind. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want to test you," Chen Wei said. "Right here, right now, in front of all these people. If you are truly a master, prove it. If Wing Chun is truly effective, show me. Or admit that your time has passed." Ip Man nodded once. "Very well." He did not move into a fighting stance. He did not raise his hands. He simply stood there, weight evenly distributed, breathing steady, as if Chen Wei had asked him a question about tea instead of issuing a challenge. Chen Wei's jaw tightened. He had expected protest, negotiation, maybe even refusal, but not this. Not acceptance delivered with the same tone you would use to agree to a walk in the garden. "No rules," Chen Wei said. "No stopping, until one of us cannot continue." "As you wish," Ip Man said. The students began to murmur. This was not a demonstration. This was not a lesson. This was something raw and dangerous. Some of them started to rise, ready to intervene. But Ip Man raised one hand slightly and they froze. "Sit," he said softly. "Watch. Learn." They sat. Chen Wei dropped into his stance, low and wide, weight on his back leg, fists chambered at his waist. His breathing deepened, his eyes locked onto Ip Man like a predator sighting prey. Every muscle in his body coiled tight, ready to explode. Ip Man did not move. 3 seconds passed. 5, 10. Chen Wei lunged forward, a straight punch toward Ip Man's face, fast and heavy, the kind of strike that had broken ribs and shattered jaws. Ip Man's head shifted 3 inches to the left. The fist passed by his ear like wind. No block, no deflection, just space where his face had been. Chen Wei spun into a low sweep, trying to take Ip Man's legs out from under him. But Ip Man's feet were no longer there. He had stepped back half a pace, his weight already redistributed, his center perfectly balanced. The sweep cut through empty air. Chen Wei reset. Frustration flickered across his face. He attacked again, this time with a combination. Jab, cross, elbow, knee, fast, powerful. Each technique flowing into the next with practiced precision. Ip Man moved like water flowing around stones. Every strike found nothing. Not because Ip Man was faster, but because he was already gone before the strike arrived. His footwork was minimal, economical. He gave ground when necessary, reclaimed it between breaths. His hands rose occasionally, not to block, but to guide, to redirect, to create space without force. 15 seconds had passed. The students watched in absolute silence. This was not the Wing Chun they practiced in forms. This was something else, something that looked effortless but was built on decades of understanding, of feeling, of knowing exactly where force would go before it arrived. Chen Wei's breathing grew heavier, not from exhaustion, from realization. Nothing he threw was landing. Nothing was even close, and Ip Man had not attacked once. He changed tactics, slowed down, became more careful. He began to probe, to test, to look for openings. He feinted high, struck low. He used footwork to create angles. He was no longer trying to overwhelm. He was trying to solve a puzzle. Ip Man let him try. 30 seconds. Then without warning, Ip Man moved forward. One step, his lead hand extended toward Chen Wei's chest. Not fast, not slow, just there. Chen Wei saw it coming and brought his hand up to deflect, exactly as he had been trained. But Ip Man's hand was already somewhere else. It had changed angle mid-motion, slipping under Chen Wei's deflection, like smoke through fingers. The palm touched Chen Wei's sternum, light, precise. Then Ip Man's other hand controlled Chen Wei's arm at the elbow, his front foot hooked behind Chen Wei's ankle. Chen Wei felt his balance shift. He tried to recover, tried to root himself, but Ip Man's position was already inside his, controlling his center, redirecting his structure. There was no force, no aggression, just geometry and timing and an understanding of leverage that turned Chen Wei's own strength against him. Chen Wei's back hit the stone ground, hard. The impact drove the air from his lungs. He lay there for 2 seconds, stunned, processing what had just happened. Then he tried to rise. Ip Man's hand pressed gently against his chest, not hard, not painful. Just enough pressure to communicate. Stay down. Chen Wei looked up into Ip Man's face. The old master's expression had not changed. Still calm, still kind, as if nothing violent had just occurred. It is over, Ip Man said quietly. Chen Wei's pride screamed at him to continue, to fight, to prove something. But his body knew the truth. He had been controlled completely. He had not been beaten with speed or strength. He had been beaten with understanding. Ip Man removed his hand and stepped back. He extended his palm, offering to help Chen Wei up. Chen Wei stared at the hand for 3 seconds. Then he took it. Ip Man pulled him to his feet with surprising strength. They stood facing each other, teacher and challenger, old and young, tradition and ambition. You are strong, Ip Man said. You are fast. Your techniques are sharp, but you are fighting to prove something. When you fight to prove something, you are already defeated. Chen Wei's throat was tight. I don't understand. You came here to prove that I am weak, that Wing Chun is weak, that youth defeats age. But you were not fighting me. You were fighting your own doubt, your own fear, your own need to be validated. Ip Man turned to face the 500 students. They sat frozen, absorbing what they had witnessed. This is the lesson, he said, his voice carrying across the courtyard without being loud. Strength is not in the body. Speed is not in the muscles. Power is not in youth. These things fade. They are temporary, but understanding is permanent. Control is permanent. The ability to remain calm when chaos surrounds you. This is what separates a fighter from a master. He turned back to Chen Wei. You asked me to prove that Wing Chun works, but Wing Chun is not about proving anything. It is about understanding. Understanding distance, understanding timing, understanding yourself. When you understand, you do not need to fight. The fight is already won before it begins.
Chen Wei bowed, deep, held for 5 seconds. Forgive me, Sifu. I came here with arrogance. I leave with humility. Ip Man inclined his head. There is nothing to forgive. You gave these students a gift today. You showed them that real combat is not like forms. It is not like drills. It is chaos. And in chaos, only understanding survives. The courtyard remained silent. Ip Man walked slowly back to his position in the center. Resume your seats, he said to the students who had half risen during the exchange. The demonstration will continue. But nothing continued, not really, because what they had witnessed in those 12 seconds had taught them more than 1,000 demonstrations could. They had seen their 60-year-old master face a young, powerful challenger and make him look like a child reaching for the moon, not with force, with understanding, not with speed, with timing, not with aggression, with control. Chen Wei did not leave. He sat at the edge of the courtyard and watched the rest of the demonstration with the intensity of someone seeing the world for the first time. When it ended, he approached Ip Man again. "May I stay?" he asked. "May I learn?" Ip Man smiled slightly. "You are already learning. The question is whether you are willing to unlearn everything you think you know first." "I am." "Then you may stay." Years later, Chen Wei would become one of Ip Man's most dedicated students. He would teach Wing Chun to hundreds of people, and he would always begin his classes the same way, by telling them about the day he challenged a 60-year-old man and learned that age is irrelevant, strength is overrated, and understanding is everything. The 500 students never forgot that day either. Some of them became masters themselves. They spread across the world, teaching Wing Chun, teaching philosophy, teaching the lesson that Ip Man had demonstrated in 12 seconds. When people asked them why they devoted their lives to Wing Chun, they would smile and say, "Because I once saw an old man move like water and make a mountain bowl." That was all they needed to say. It was enough. Ip Man continued teaching for many more years. His body aged, his hair turned completely silver, his movements became slower, more economical. But his understanding deepened, and students came from everywhere to learn not just Wing Chun, but the philosophy behind it. The understanding that true mastery is not about defeating others. It is about understanding yourself so completely that defeat becomes impossible. The courtyard in Foshan still exists. The stone where Chen Wei fell is still there, and sometimes, late at night, people say you can still feel the silence that filled that space when 500 people held their breath and watched a master prove that age means nothing, strength means nothing, and understanding means everything. 12 seconds. That was all it took. 12 seconds to change a life, to teach a lesson, to prove that legends are not built on lies. They are built on truth. And sometimes the truth is simply this: when you stop trying to win, you become unbeatable.